An organized gang of human traffickers had their plan all mapped out. Buy a dirty ship dirt cheap, pack it with illegal migrants, and motor it to England, where the payday would be more than $1 million, and then they'd do it again. Week after week. Here's how the plot was supposed to run, in their own words.
Okay, anyway, we're gonna meet soon. We're gonna talk, we're gonna send you pictures. We're gonna bring you every week 50 people. From first trip, we're gonna get that money back.
They almost pulled it off, but sloppiness and technology tripped them up. When their maiden voyage was caught off the British coast, the crew were arrested and a laptop seized.
Police, can you open the door?
And that computer led police to the front doors of the men in London orchestrating it all. Wakey, wakey, sleepyhead. The mob reporter here with an intimate inside look at a people smuggling ring that ran aground, figuratively and literally, when the gang was all caught and last week convicted. Let me tell you about it. The ship was bought in Latvia, on sale as it had been rotting in dry dock for years. Built 59 years ago in Germany as a fishing trawler, the 31-meter-long Svanic was now a decrepit mess. Rusty, dirty, and ugly as sin, but she could hold a lot of people and she more or less stayed afloat, and that was all this gang asked of her. They bought the Svanic in October 2020 for €20,000 each. There were problems from the start. It ran aground on its first voyage from Latvia, just 2 weeks before it was to pick up its illicit cargo. That happens when a boat travels in water too shallow for it and it gets stuck on the seabed. It was due to operator error, and the men on board were called a clumsy crew. The Swedish Coastguard came to their rescue then. The Swedes freed the Svanic, but were concerned that the crew couldn't tell them much about their journey, including where they were going. So they reported it as a suspicious vessel to the Maritime Analysis and Operations Centre in Lisbon, Portugal. That ops centre in turn reported it to Britain's National Crime Agency. A combination of it being a bad ship with a bad crew, it ran aground a second time before it collected 69 Albanian migrants in Ostend, a city on Belgium's coast. Apparently some migrants had second thoughts about getting on the ship, but they were forced to proceed by men with weapons. This is video taken by some of the migrants on that journey. 2 pregnant women were among the migrant passengers packed into its hold. Despite it being packed with 69 passengers and 3 crew, there were only 21 life jackets on board, and the lifeboat could only hold 20 people. Once loaded, the Svanic headed for England, aiming for Great Yarmouth. After 14 hours at sea, the Svanic was intercepted by Her Majesty's Coastguard, along with officers from the NCA and the UK Border Force. This was back in November 2020 off the coast of Norfolk. The 3 crewmen on board were arrested, 2 Ukrainians and 1 Latvian, while the 69 migrants from Albania were turned over to British immigration officials. On board the Svanic, NCA officers found a laptop. It was used to help the crew navigate, but it also helped police navigate their way around their gang. It enabled them to identify those based in the UK who were involved in organizing the plot. The laptop had been given to the crew by Sergejs Kuliss, 32, a Latvian who was living in London. Police say phone evidence proved Kuliss was in Great Yarmouth on the night the Svanic was scheduled to arrive in England, waiting for a ship that didn't come. And as he waited, he was contacting his 2 co-conspirators, fellow Lithuanian Arturas Jusas, 35, living in South London, and an Israeli national, Kfir Ivgi, 39, who was living in North London. On their phones, police found messages and voice memos sent using WhatsApp detailing weeks spent planning their operation. They had high hopes for it. Jusas can be heard boasting the investment in the ship was a good one because they could make profit right from their very first trip.
From first trip, we're gonna get that money back.
When Kuliss first found the Svanic for sale in Latvia, he sent Jusas photos and videos of it, which Jusas forwarded to Ivgi. Jusas told Ivgi he planned to smuggle 50 people into England each week. When the men waiting in Britain realized their ship wasn't arriving, they started sharing with each other news stories they found online about the interception. Ivgi sent a message to Jusas, telling him to wipe his phone clean. He apparently didn't follow that advice. Kuliss was already known as a gang boss. London's Metropolitan Police were investigating him in a high-value theft ring. He was pinched for that in December. In June, the other men were arrested in raids.
Police, can you open the door?
Here is Jusas being arrested at his home. The 3 organizers and the 3 crewmen were all charged with conspiring to facilitate illegal immigration.
We're from the National Crime Agency. Okay? I'm here this morning to arrest you, alright, for the offence of conspiring to facilitate illegal entry into the UK, contrary to Section 25 of the Immigration Act 1971. Okay?
The evidence on Jusas' phone may have given him added incentive to plead guilty early. He admitted to his role in court in August. After an 8-week trial, the rest of the ringleaders and 2 of the crew were found guilty. All but 1 were sentenced just before Christmas. Ivgi was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Jusas was given 9 years and 9 months. Kuliss got 9 years, and 1 of the crew got 7. The other crew member who was found guilty had his sentencing postponed due to being in COVID isolation. Migrant smuggling is big business across Europe, similar to the US border with Mexico. There has been waves of people smuggling going on across Europe, especially as pandemic restrictions were lifted. But most of those weren't as investment heavy as this scheme. Typically, the people smuggled into England are hidden in cargo trucks and vans and moved across the English Channel by ferry or the famous cross-channel tunnel train. In an earlier video, I told you of a gang moving people stuffed in luxury cars who were racing across Europe from the east, and an Albanian gang responsible for illegally driving hundreds of migrants into the United Kingdom, hidden in vans and trucks using corrupted truck drivers. Going to the expense of buying such a large ship and hiring a crew and taking on the added risk of a mass entry were unusual for England, unusually high. At least unusual for those attempts that have been thwarted. In the end, the men didn't make the profit on their first voyage that they promised themselves, or any other known voyage either. Instead, they netted reasonably stiff prison terms. Thanks for watching.